Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Bike Room Design Made Easy for Developers and Facility Managers. My name is Ryan Colwell, and I'm the Digital Content Coordinator here at Graber Manufacturing, the parent company of Madrax. Joining me is Chantel Pivotto, our design consultant here at Graber, who will be helping to facilitate the webinar. For anyone not familiar with us, we are a leading manufacturer of bike racks, bike storage solutions, and bike amenities based in Waunakee, Wisconsin. We've been designing and manufacturing bike racks for over 30 years and have a wealth of industry knowledge that we're excited to share with you today. Our two panelists, Stacy Haldeman and Larry Seiple, are experts in bike storage and are excited to give you all the information you'll need to make a bike room creation process a breeze. Stacy is our East Coast inside sales manager and has been working at Graber for close to a decade. Over that time, she's helped thousands of customers create excellent bike storage spaces. Today, she'll be sharing technical information that you'll need to know, as well as some great insights on how to make the best bike room for your patrons. Larry is our Mideast inside sales manager and has been working in the site amenity industry for years. In addition to providing you with valuable information about bike racks, he'll also be telling you about the new bike room builder available for free on our website, which you can use to design your own ideal bike storage space. Before I let them have the floor, I want to give everyone a brief overview of what exactly you can expect to learn from today's presentation. First, we'll be giving an overview of some benefits that creating a bike room has to offer. Then, we'll cover all the information you should know before planning your indoor storage space. Next, we'll discuss how the bike room builder can help you quickly design your space. Then, our panelists will offer some great design ideas for creating a space and functional bike room. And finally, we'll wrap things up with the live Q&A. So if you have any questions about what's covered here today, please write them in the chat box and we'll answer them as time allows. One last thing to know is that you'll receive an email following today's webinar that has a recording of this presentation. Now, without further ado, Larry, can you please tell everybody about the benefits of a bike room?
Ryan, I'd love to share the benefits. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. Before we begin planning on a bike room, it's important to understand why it's worth the time and effort in the first place. In general, bike room benefits to the patrons, the tenants, and the facility managers of the property by creating a safe and secure area where people can store their bikes in a long period of time. While street-side bike racks are good for short-term parking, longer period of time, including anywhere from a couple of hours to a couple of months, will require more secure bike amenities. An indoor bike storage space protects bikes from both weather conditions and thieves. It also provides a safe, convenient alternative for riders who won't have to stress about finding a spot to keep their bikes outdoors. And because it's located on the property, riders won't be forced to walk around outside, potentially feeling unsafe. This is especially true at night. Because of these reasons, many people now consider a bike room to be an important amenity when people are looking for a place to live. Some other reasons to consider installing a bike room are because it creates organization in the space, promotes a green and healthy lifestyle, and can also include financial benefits. Facility managers are often the people who have to deal with the clutter that the bike creates. A bike room provides people with a designated space so that they're far less likely to leave their bikes on the stairwells or attached to the railings or signs around the property. Cycling has many positive health benefits, and the ease of access to safe storage space gives people another reason to start it up. In addition to this, supplying parking for green travel has a positive impact on our environment and can help people inspire other people to make green changes. Another benefit of the bike room is that it can be a revenue builder in multiple different senses. You can make money from the bike room by charging a small monthly fee to allow people to park their bikes in the room. You will also increase goodwill with the cyclists and make them more likely to reside in your space. Lastly, it might be in your best interest to create a bike room because there could be a city ordinance that requires it. Depending on where you're located, there could be laws that you have to follow. In a minute here, Stacy will touch base on this topic. But It is something you should be aware of. Ultimately, building a bike room is a large undertaking with the positives greatly outweighing the negatives. The initial upfront cost may be high, but if you set up properly, there'll be a little maintenance needed afterwards. The room will ultimately be profitable for the building. Stacy, can you please talk about what people should know once they decide to create a bike room in their space?
Sure, Larry, I'd be happy to. So before you begin designing your bike room, you should have some information ready. The two biggest things to know are the design specifics of your would-be room and how many bikes you plan on storing. Let's start by talking about the dimensions of your bike room. Ideally, when planning your room, you would have complete freedom over the size of your space, and you'd be able to make the storage area as big as you needed to fill your bike rack quota. But often, this isn't the case, and you have to work in a pre-built space. In a situation like this, high-density bike storage options, such as multi-tiered racks or staggered vertical racks, are especially beneficial. This is where knowing the exact dimensions of your space becomes critical, as it allows you to know what limits you have for bike rack options. For example, each style of bike rack requires a certain amount of height clearance to fit properly. Vertical bike storage racks will need 8 feet of clearance, while multi-tiered racks will need 9 feet. For the width of the room, the smallest bike room size possible would be 8 feet wide to accommodate a single row of vertical racks. This is because in addition to the bike rack size, proper aisle sizes need to be taken into account. As different types of racks take up more space and more rooms are added, a larger room will be needed. Another thing to keep in mind is that the shape of the room affects the number of bike racks you can install. A rectangular shaped room will always be more efficient than a circular one of relatively the same size. It is also important to know that if there are any potential obstacles that could get in the way of bike racks or aisles in the room. This will include pipes, electrical wires, doors, lights, and windows. These factors will be important in determining the restricted areas in your room. Note that these obstructions do not need to be visible to affect the placement of racks. Wires or pipes below the floor or behind walls should also be taken into account, as mounting to the floors or walls could be hindered by such factors. And the last important thing to know about the design of your room is what the walls and floors will be made of. When mounting a rack, the best option will always be concrete. For horizontal racks, this will allow for either in-ground or surface mounting, and for vertical and multi-tiered bike storage, it allows the racks to be connected directly to a wall. So concrete offers the most stable and sturdy protection from theft and damage, and is overall the best choice for a bike room. If your bike room is not made of concrete, however, there are still options for the type of racks you can use. Because surfaces such as wood, drywall, and asphalt are not as secure as concrete, they cannot be mounted to directly. Instead, channel-mounted racks could potentially be used connected to the studs of a wall. But your best option in this situation would be freestanding racks, whose structure will typically be heavy enough to remain in place without needing to be secured to the ground. For horizontal storage, racks on rails are a great option for similar reasons. Outside of bike room design details, the other important aspect to know before you begin creating your room is determining the number of bikes you need to store. Typically, this number will be determined by one of two factors, either the regulations put in place by a local government or by trying to accommodate as many people as you can in your space. Before planning out your bike room, you should always check your local ordinances, including city, county, and state codes. Typically, there will be a minimum number of spaces required based on occupancy, square footage, or some other aspect. Certain ordinances can also dictate the amount of ground-mounted bike racks a room must have. You can use library.municode.com to learn the specific ordinances of your area. If there are no ordinances in your area requiring a certain number of indoor bike storage spots, we suggest following the APBP guidelines for your bike storage room. For office buildings, the guideline is 1 bike storage space for every 10,000 square feet of floor area. For buildings with multifamily bike storage, plan on a half a space of bike storage for every bedroom. For healthcare buildings and hospitals, there should be either 1.5 spaces for every 20 employees or 1 space for every 50,000 square feet of floor area, whichever is greater. Public elementary, junior high, and high schools should have 1.5 spaces for every 10 employees, plus 1.5 spaces for every 20 students of planned capacity. For colleges and universities, 1.5 spaces for every 10 employees are needed, plus 1 space for every 10 students of the planned capacity, or 1 space for every 20,000 square feet of floor area, whichever is greater. Now that we've gone over some important things you need to know before beginning your design plan, let's take a look at how to make the design process infinitely easier. Larry, can you tell everyone about the bike room builder?
Stacy, I'd love to. The bike room builder is a revolutionary tool that allows you to design your own custom bike room in minutes. Let me say that again. The bike room builder is a revolutionary tool that allows you to design your own custom bike room within minutes. You can choose from a wide range of bike storage products to create a 3D model of your dream bike room simply by dragging and dropping components into space. To access the bike room builder, sign into your free Madrax account and either click on the link on your homepage or select the See in Bike Room option on any of our bike storage products. From there, you can be up and running within minutes without needing any special skills or knowledge of design software. If at any point you need help or want to learn more, you can either go to the how-to guide on our website, or you can contact myself, Stacy, or anyone else on our team. There are many different things you can do with this tool, as well as some key aspects that the bike room builder will do automatically to make your creation process simple. Let's take a look. You can create a bike room to your exact dimensions and see the space in both 2D and 3D views. This includes rooms that will have unique shapes, curved walls. You can also add, remove, and resize the walls from the room by a simple click of the mouse. Then you can add obstacles into your space, such as doors, windows, and pillars. By adding these directly into the room, you can find out which racks that can accommodate these limitations. Once the shell of the space has been created, you can begin to experiment with different bike racks. The easy to use interface makes it simple for you to add racks, amenities, and security options. Test out new ideas, see what works best for your space, and place different types of racks next to each other. See if you don't like something, you can simply remove it from the room with a simple click. You don't have to worry about putting the bike racks too closely together, as products and the builder have collision boxes that adhere to minimum space requirements, saving you time, energy, and definitely stress of spacing the racks too close together, too far apart. You'll be able to customize the racks by choosing their colors and components. You can also view all of these adjustments from either the 2D top-down view or from inside the room in a 3D view. Once you're done, you can get a summary of your design, get a quote for your creation, and purchase the entire order in one big list. You can also share your project with others, even save the work in progress on your website so you can turn to it later if you get busy. Now that we've gone over the bike room builder, Stacy, maybe you can give everyone some great tips on how to plan out their next bike room.
Sure, Larry, I'm happy to. So one of the most important aspects in setting up a bike room is ensuring that the bike racks are spaced out correctly. In addition to making sure there is enough space between racks, you will need to ensure that you are leaving enough space for an aisle. There should be 60 inches of aisle space beyond the tire of a bicycle parked horizontally. This should be measured to the tire of another bicycle or a wall, depending on your layout. When laying out racks in the bike room builder, the collision box for each rack will include half of the space needed for an aisle. In general, one option that can make spacing bike racks easier is getting bike racks on rails. Racks on rails have pre-placed spacing, and parking spaces do not need to be measured out. You would still need to know the spacing requirements for aisles, but in high-density applications, Racks on rails could be a cost-saving measure because it would eliminate labor hours needed during installation. Vertical bike racks should provide bikes with at least 8 inches of clearance from the ground. The center of a rack should also be placed at least 15 inches away from a perpendicular wall. This provides enough clearance for standard-sized handlebars to fit next to that wall. When trying to maximize space for vertical racks, it is important that the height of each rack be staggered. If vertical racks are mounted at the same height, they will need to be spaced at least 24 inches apart versus just 15 inches when staggered. This is done to prevent the handlebars from making the racks unusable. After you have properly spaced your vertical bike rack, you will need to account for an aisle behind the stored bicycle. This aisle offers enough room to raise and lower bicycles onto the rack. A standard full-size bicycle from tire to seat is roughly 48 inches. You will then need an additional 48 inches to create aisle space beyond this, which should remain completely clear. So in total, 96 inches of clearance are needed to use a vertical bike rack effectively. In addition to this, you will need 8 feet of ceiling clearance, as mentioned earlier. Two-tiered bike racks typically come as complete units. So similar to racks on rails, you won't have to worry about horizontal or vertical spacing. You will, however, need to factor for aisle space beyond the rack. This again should be at least 48 inches. As mentioned earlier, you will also generally need 9 feet of clearance measured from the ground to the ceiling. Bike lockers by design are relatively modular and are meant to be banked next to one another. The one spacing item to be aware of is the aisle between 2 facing lockers or between a locker door and a wall. This is measured based on when the door is completely open. Depending on the size of the bike locker, the door can range from about 30 inches to 40 inches in size. Along with a 48-inch aisle, you would need a distance of 78 inches to 88 inches between the locker unit and a wall or open door of another locker. When placing bike racks, keep in mind that these measurements are recommendations. They are meant to provide general guidance for your layout. This could change depending on the specific bike racks you use or your building code. Make sure to use the installation instructions to see if there are any exceptions. I would also suggest that you incorporate different styles of racks into your design based on how you anticipate the space being used. Doing so will allow you to maximize the number of bikes you can keep in your space at once while still accommodating the needs of your patrons. For example, if you're installing a bike room for an elderly community, you may not want to include racks that force people to lift bikes into the air. If you expect tenants to be more active in recycling, considering the value of a user-friendly layout. This would include ground-mounted bike racks, adequate clearance around the racks, and prominent aisles. The additional space around and between racks gives users more room to maneuver within the bike storage area. It's also easier to access and lock the bicycles from the side. Additionally, floor-mounted bike racks don't require lifting to store the bicycle. This type of design works well for commuters who rely on their bike to be a primary mode of transportation. They will appreciate the ease in accessing and returning their bike to storage. This type of layout also reduces the chance that bicycles will bump into each other while being stored or removed from the space. High-density bike storage design provides the greatest number of spaces to store bicycles in the allotted area, while also adhering to ordinances and best practices. This layout style includes vertical bicycle parking, 2-tiered racks, and reduced spacing between racks. To create the greatest number of spaces for bicycle storage, you'll most likely incorporate vertical and 2-tiered bike racks along walls and in open areas. For buildings with bike storage requirements that restrict vertical bike parking, high-density ground-mounted bike racks can be used to store the most bicycles. While this type of layout does store a greater number of bicycles, it also makes the area more congested, which could make it difficult for multiple users to access their bicycles at the same time. On the one hand, the area is beneficial for those who just want a spot to store their bicycles, but is less than desirable for those who plan to regularly use the area. Another option is to blend both high density and user-friendly designs into a balanced layout. Here, you would fill part of the area with high density bike racks while placing more user-friendly racks in other portions. This will serve cyclists who ride on a regular basis, as well as whose main concern is just having a space to store their bicycle. Adding amenities such as repair stands, tire filling stations, as well as benches and lockers can go a long way into making your bike room feel complete.
Great. Thank you both so much for all that useful information. I see we have a few questions coming in. So Chantel, can you take over the Q&A, please?
Yes, I do have a couple questions that have come in for you guys. I will just toss them out and one of you can respond. The first one I have is, can one of your employees review a bike room I create in the room builder?
Stacy, I'll take this one. Yeah. So anytime you create one, you're more than welcome to share with myself, Stacy, or anyone on our team. Also, before you get to the point of ordering, we would also look it over and make sure you have all the proper hardware, make sure everything fits, everything would be good before you move to order forward with an order. So yes, we can.
Awesome. The next question I have is, how much would it cost to install a bike room into my 20 by 25 foot space?
Yep, so that's a great question. And the answer is certainly you can use the bike room builder. We're always available to help. But pricing is going to be dependent on what racks you're choosing, how many racks are going into the room, you know, how the space is laid out and what racks you're using.
Thanks, Stacy. Next question I have is, do you have bike racks that work for e-bikes?
E-bike question. Knew these were going to come up. Yeah, so we do have trays on our 2-tier systems that are wired, designed for fat tire bikes and also for e-bikes. We can put those on the bottom rows for ease, because the e-bikes obviously are heavier than our normal standard bikes. So it's easy to just put them right on there. We would have the option to on the top tier as well, but you just want to make sure that whoever your client is, whoever's going to be using it, would be able to lift those up. And that goes the same with some of the fat tire and e-bike trays that we have for our vertical racks as well. They just have to make sure that it's easy to lift them up, as the e-bikes can be heavy. But yes, we do have storage options for those larger bikes.
Next question is, what is your lead time on Boost bike racks?
Another great question. Lead times are a big thing right now. So our Boost racks, lead times are kind of, you know, changing a little bit, but our Boost racks, because they have so many moving parts and such, depending on how many you're ordering, we're probably looking at around 14 to 16 weeks. Probably a little closer to 16 weeks, but like I said, dependent on the quantity.
Awesome. And the last question I have is, how do I learn more about the bike room builder?
Well, you can rewatch this recording, which we'll get later, and learn all about it there. Also, we do have a blog on the website that came out last week with the launch of this bike room builder. Or if you want to, you can always email or call Stacy, myself, or anyone on our team. We'd love to talk to you about it, help you walk through any kind of hiccups you might be coming across, or any kind of questions you may come up while you're working on it. But the blog's probably the easiest way to go. That's what, like I said, right on our website at madrax.com.
I do actually have one more question that just came in. What do you recommend for e-bike charging in a bike room? Should you account for e-scooters in your bike room?
Right now, we don't have anything when it comes to charging. If you're going to be putting charging stations somewhere in the bike room itself, yes, you want to make sure you accommodate that. When it comes to e-scooters, we don't have any scooter racks. We just have the bike racks. But, you know, make sure you work with maybe local or any kind of codes that you might need to stay close by, but also electrician who's designing the room to see where the best place it is to put the plugins and the outlets. And then we can accommodate the racks near or around there, so that way you can have easy to plug in to your e-bikes or your batteries and for the scooters.
Awesome. It looks like that's it for questions.
Great. Well, thank you, Larry and Stacy, for being part of this and giving all that great information. And thank you, Chantel, for helping out with the Q&A. And thank you, everybody else, for attending. I hope you were able to learn a lot of information about this. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us either online through our chat box on our website, or you can call us or send over an email. But yeah, thank you so much. We hope to see you at the next webinar. Take care.